G'day guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of our memory game project tutorial. So by now you should have downloaded the project files from our Moodle course from the demo projects folder and extracted that and loaded it in your text editor and had a little look and see that we've got our main program folder. Because there's quite a few images here, I've got them sorted into an images folder, so we need to be aware of that. There's just a whole bunch of images of various animals. They're all the same size though. I think they're all 100 by 100 pixels, which is important to make this sort of work. There's the blank card. The back card is just a blank blue square. And then we've got a HTML file, a JavaScript file which is empty, and some basic styling just to make it look a little bit prettier. But if we have a look at our HTML first, so we need to understand the structure of our interface before we get going. We've just got a main div, a wrapper div with everything inside of it, a H1 tag for our main game heading there. And then we've got the game board div, which is this white section with the 4x3 grid inside of it, where each div for row 1, row 2 and row 3 has a 4 span tags inside of it. So I'm not sure I've used span tags too much before, but divs make the content sit below each other unless you position it by default. They just sit below each other, whereas I want these to sit side by side. So a span tag is another variety of a tag. It's a bit similar to a div. It allows you to section up your page, but it doesn't have the items sit below each other. So it doesn't do like a page return kind of thing. The objects can sit side by side, so that's why the span tag allows it to happen. So 3 rows of the 4 cards, all showing the same blank card image from the images folder. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And then we've got our number of attempts, which is just a paragraph tag and a div holding our number of attempts, which is set at 0. So that's the structure of the HTML for this project. CSS is pretty simple sort of stuff. You can have a look at that and see what's going on there. But obviously the major work we have to do is going to be done in our JavaScript file. So just in the interest of moving this tutorial along so you're not sitting here typing code, I'm just going to paste in the beginnings of our JavaScript code, and we're going to have a little bit of a look. So our program here is probably going to need some global variables. As we move on, we'll determine what those variables are. We are going to declare an array. So because there's so many images in this array, I could put them all inside the square brackets there, but because that'll look a bit ugly, just for a little bit of bit better sort of looking code, I've loaded all of the images into the array elements individually, so we can see the index values, and we can see because they're in the images folder, we need images / before each one of them. And I'm using 6 of the images in there. There's a few more than that, but I'm only using 6. And you'll notice that because I need pairs, I've got to have them declared twice or appearing twice in the array. So there we go: camel, lion, giraffe, baboon, deer, elephant, and we start again: camel, lion, giraffe, baboon, deer, elephant. That allows us to get our matching pairs happening. Using a variable called number of matches, because obviously there might be 12 elements in the array, but there are only 6 pairs. So the number of matches is half the number of elements in the array. So half of faces.length will tell me that there are at the moment 6 matches. If I load more images into the array, which I can do, they've always got to be an even number because I've got to have matching pairs. I can always find out how many matches there are by dividing the faces.length or the array length by 2. So I could also use faces.length divide by 2 there, would give me the same result. And I've just set up empty functions for my 3 functions that we spoke about in part 1. We've got the choose function, which is going to respond to the click on the back of one of our blue cards to say reveal what card has been shown, and wait till I detect 2, and also it's also going to prevent the click of 3 image cards as well. My check function, which is going to be called at the end of my choose function. So once my 2 cards have been chosen, the check function is going to determine, well, firstly, have all the matches been found, and then do I have a match? in this particular instance if they haven't all been found. And then I've got my shuffle function, which is going to shuffle my cards on the go load of the game, but also then reload if I want to play again. And I'm going to need some event listeners to trigger the start of my game. So we're going to need some code that's going to take care of that and make things run. So that's my starting code. So you might want to pause that video here, this video here, and get that code typed and make sure you're understanding what's going on before you move on to part 2.